All right, Shavua Tov. And so we're on Daf Kof. We're just at the bottom of the previous page, talking about some more theoretical cases. The theme of this entire Daf is going to be water, throwing things on and from different bodies of water. Water is just interesting because things float, some things float on it, some things sink on it. It's not really clear, is it a substance, is it not? And so we're going to do all different permutations of water, although we're going to be covering about 3 different mishnayot. So we start with Rava. Amar Rava, Peshita li, mayim al gabe mayim, hainu hanachatan. Egoz al gabe mayim, lav hainu hanachatan. So if I take, let's say I'm in the Shut HaYachid, and there's some, a body of water outside my home, and if I live in Venice or something, or just a puddle, and I pour water on it, so water on top of water is landing. So I would be chayav because that's where water goes. Although it mixes up and all that, that's called hanacha. However, if it's just a nut and I drop it down onto water, it floats. So it never comes to rest because it's always floating around. So therefore, putting a nut on water would be patur. So that he knows, that's peshita. Now he has a question. Ba'ayrava, egoz bakeli, uchli saf al gabe mayim mahu. What if there is a nut in a bowl, and the bowl is floating on the water? Then mahu mi amrinan batar egoz azlinan v'hanayich. Do I look at the nut itself? The nut is resting in the bowl. Or dilma batar keli azlinan v'halanayich. Or do I look at the whole bowl? And so since the bowl is not resting, the nut also is dependent on the bowl, is also not resting. Teku. So if I would take that nut from there in the Shut Rabim and move it to the Shut Yachid, did I take something that was at rest or was it not at rest? And so that question is left standing or left floating, you might say. Shemen al gabe yayin machloket Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri v'Rabbanan. Okay, now I have oil floating on top of wine. So what is that considered? Which one would that be? Would that be like water and water? Is it all liquid? And so, yeah, that's how it lands. Or are they considered, because they're separate substances and they don't mix together? Is it like more like the nut? Well, it depends on the machloket between these two sages, between Rechel and Rabbanan. Ditnan shemen shesaf al gabe yain v'naga tibul yom b'shemen lo pasal ela shemen. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri omer shenehem chibur zeh lazeh. This Mishnah is talking about, this is regarding Tumah and Tahara, not about Shabbat. But we're making an analogy. We're going to apply the same idea. If you have oil on top of water, a tivul yom, someone with a very low level of tum'ah comes and touches the oil, then only the oil is tameh, not the wine under it. That's according to Rabbanan. So according to Rabbanan, they are separate things. And although they're touching, they remain separate. That's why we use a low-level tum'ah. If it was a high-level tum'ah, then touching the oil becomes tameh, the oil touches the wine, and then it becomes tameh also. If it's a high-level tum'ah, then it can go multiple degradations. But here we're talking about low-level, so it's considered 2 separate things, and the wine would be fine. That's Rabbanan. They are connected. They are one because they're all liquid and they're all together. So it's considered one. So according to Yochanan ben Nuri, if I put some oil on top of wine, that would be considered carrying. According to Rabbanan, it would not be considered transferring. It would not be considered placing it down. Okay. Amar Abaye bor b'shut harabim amuka asara urchaba shemona. If I had something that it's 10 deep, so that's the sufficient depth, and it's 8 wide. If you remember yesterday, we talked about another case where it was just the minimum. It was 10 deep and 4 by 4 wide. And I take some dirt and I throw it in, and then it becomes only 9, right? And so that was a question that we left unanswered. That was a question by Rabbi Yochanan. So since the act of transferring and placing down, at the same moment, it also fills up and becomes less than 10. So now it's not a Shut HaYachid anymore, right? So we asked that question yesterday. So this is a variation on it. Now I have something that's 10 deep and double wide. Okay, it's 8 tefachim wide. So it's enough for two borot. I take a mat and just throw it into it in no place, and just lands all twisted. Hayav. Patur. But if I put it in carefully so that the mat becomes a divider between the 8, dividing it into 4 and 4, and the mat has its own thickness. So now I have 2 borot. Each one is 10 tefachim deep, but a little bit less than 4 and 4 each. So they're no longer the Shut HaYachid. Now they are all part of the Shut HaRabim. It's just a bump in the road. And so in that case, Abaye says patur. He says it's no longer the Shut HaYachid, and although the act of throwing it in simultaneously causes it to not become the Shut HaYachid, he still thinks patur. That's Abaye. So le'Abaye the peshita le'demachaset bebatela mechisa. According to Abaye, who in this case he thinks for sure it's patur. Kol sheken chulya debatela mechisa. All the more so in the other case, which was simpler, when I take some dirt and throw it in and it becomes less than 10 tefachim, he would for sure say that that's also patur. Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, who in yesterday's daf questioned that case of throwing dirt in that case he wasn't sure. For sure, in this case, which is more complicated, you have 2 different things, you're not really filling anything in, he would say that this is no good and you would be chayav. Okay, theoretically he could ask a question on both cases, but they're assuming that this one is so much more problematic than that one. Okay, that was Abaye. Abaye said something else. Amar Abaye, bor b'shut harabim amuka asara, udchaba arba'a, mele'a mayim, וזרק לתוכה חייב, מלא פירות וזרק לתוכה patur. So what do you consider filling in? For sure, if you put dirt in it and it fills in, yes. If I put fruit in it, well, fruit is also filling it up, and so once I put enough fruit in it, if the top of the fruit is fills it in so that there's less than 10 tefachim space, it's no longer a hole that's 10 tefachim deep. So that's fruit or any item. However, water, I filled it up with water all the way to the top. Water is not considered a filling substance because most things I throw in will sink. So it will sink to the bottom. So it's like having air in it. Some things float, but most things sink. So therefore, filling with water is not considered filling, and therefore, if I throw something in a pit full of water, it's considered Shut HaYachid and Chayav. Full of fruit, patur. My tama, mayim la mebateli mechisata, perot mebateli mechisata. Water does not nullify the walls. It's still considered that the walls go all the way down, but fruit does. Tanyana mehachi, we have a baraita that proves that this is in fact the case, what Abaye said. Hazorek min hamayim leistera. Istera is a Greek word that's the same root as our word street. Right, you can see the letters in there, just mixed up a little bit. So you throw from the ocean or the sea, from the sea into the street, or from the street into the sea, patur, because a big body of water like ocean or is called karmelit. It's not a shut harabim. It's not a shut hayachid, and so you're throwing from a shut harabim to karmelit is in between. So patur. Rabbi Shimon omer im yesh makom shezarak amok asara verachab arba'a chayav. If you go down and the area, you go all the way down to the bottom of the seabed. If on the bottom of the seabed you find that there is a hole down there that is 10 tefachim deep under the ground and 4 by 4 wide, then that's considered a Reshut HaYachid, even though it's all the way at the bottom of the ocean. Right? Why? Because he agrees that filling up with water is not considered filling up. Water is not a filling substance. If I would throw something right on top of that, it would sink all the way down into that hole. And so it's really the floor bed that I am measuring from. And so that fits with what he said here. Okay, so that's quite interesting. Okay, Mishnah, we'll get still more about water, although we're going to a new Mishnah. We encountered this Mishnah a couple of times. It's a very important principle that throwing something on a wall above 10 tefachim is patur. It's like throwing in the air, right? Here's the derivation of the principle of this makom patur, that the shut harabim is only from the ground until 10 tefachim high, 2.5 feet. Above that is just airspace. And so if I throw it in some way that it remains in the air, right? If I would throw with enough force that it just goes into orbit, that would be patur. If I throw it on the wall and it remains below 10 tefachim, kezorek ba'aretz. Under 10 tefachim is considered part of the ground. Hazorek ba'aretz ba'amot hayav. And now the most obvious thing is that if I am on the ground and I throw it in front of me 4 amot and it goes that far, hayab. Even though I didn't carry it all the way, throwing is also causing it to move that much. Okay, I'm going to ask the question which we saw before. Hold on, if I throw it against the wall, it's going to bounce back, and so it didn't come to a rest. And in order to be chayav, I have to move it, and it has to rest. We're talking about a fig cake, right? The fruit roll up that's sticky. I throw it and it sticks onto the wall, and that's why I am a chayav, because it did come to a rest vertically. Amar Rav Yehuda Amarav, Amar Rabbi Chiya, Zarak למעלה מעשרה, והלכה ונחה בחור כלשהו. באנו למחלוקת רבי מאיר ורבנן. So I throw it onto the wall, and it lands in a little crevice in the wall. So in that, and it's above 10 tefachim, right? So what do we do there? Because it's not really in the air, because it did land on top of a ledge, right? So what do you say in that case? This depends on the machloket about chokekin or not chokekin. I'll read it and then explain it. He says that we chisel out to complete the area, so chayav. It's like it's a 4x4 area. He says we don't chisel out, and therefore it's not chayav. Okay, the origin of this machlok is talking actually about a doorway. A doorway to put a mezuzah. What kind of doorway needs a mezuzah? Has to be big enough to actually be a doorway. What's the smallest doorway to be chayav mezuzah? Be 10 high by 4 across. 10 tefachim by 4 tefachim. You have to crawl into it. Okay, what if I have something even smaller than that, but it's an archway? Right, it's an archway. It is 10 tefachim high in the middle, and 4 tefachim wide on the bottom. But in the middle, over here, it's not, because it's an arch. So the first opinion, the Rabbi Meir says, chokekin lashlim. We imagine as if it's a rectangle, even though it's not, right? Because you're kind of passing through, so it does have the height and width in some places. Rabbanan say no, en chokekim. Okay, that's machloket over there. So we're applying that same idea here. And so here, if you can imagine it this way, I think is the best way. Let's say you have, a table or a wall. Let's say this was a wall. It was 10 tefachim high and 4x4. So certainly, if you throw on top of this shutei yachid would be chayav. Okay, what if I build on top of this? I build bricks all on top of this. I just leave a little sliver that's not built, right? So then would you say, oh, because I built on top of it, now, and it didn't land on, so now it's not 4x4 tefachim because the stuff on top? Or no, you'd say, look, the stuff added doesn't take away from being a reshut hayachid, and as long as there's some space anywhere here that something can land, right? I can imagine as if the whole thing is empty, and then it would still be chayav. So that is essentially the machloket here between Rabbi Meir and Chachamim. Tanyana mehachi, we have a baraita also to back this up. Hazorek min hayam leistera, min haistera layam patur. Okay, so if you go from, am I in the wrong place? Oh, we did that already, sorry. Okay, right. So, Tanyana mehachi, okay, it's the same words. Zarak lemala me'asara, v'alcha v'nacha bachor kol shehu, Rabbi Meir mechayev, v'chachamim poterim. We have a braita that applies it directly to not the case of mezuzah, but to the case of throwing and carrying on Shabbat. If I throw above 10 tefachim and it lands in a crevice, even the smallest crevice, Rabbi Meir says hayav, because we imagine it as if it were open. As long as the wall is 4 tefachim wide, right? So there is that space there. I can imagine that it's smooth. Hachamim poterim. Amar Rav Yehuda Amarav, he was the author also of this halakha. So we're continuing another statement in his name. Tel hamit laket asara mitoch arba'a vezarak venach al gabav hayav. The question is, in the Shut Rabim, it might have different dips and speed bumps, and it goes higher and lower. Even if it's a street, it's not exactly straight. So how much of a incline, of a slope, would something have to be called a Shut HaYachid? So, I mean, sometimes if it's clear, if it's a table in the middle or a boulder, then that's clearly Reshut HaYachid. But what if it goes up on an incline? Is that just, a natural mountain, or is it a Reshut HaYachid? Well, it depends on the slope. And here he gives us the formula, a mound that goes up 10 tefachim out of 4 tefachim. In other words, it goes up 4 over a slope of, over a hypotenuse of 10, right? So you could calculate what that angle is. Be the sine of the angle of 4/10.
Hypotenuse or adjacent?
I think it's hypotenuse. Right. It's hard to tell from the language, but the commentaries say it's hypotenuse. Which would make sense. That would be easier to calculate. I mean, you're there, so you're measuring the hypotenuse. So if you do that, and it lands on it, hayav. In other words, that's considered still reshut hayachid. But if it was more than that, then it would be just considered a wall, too difficult to walk up that. Tanya nemeachid. And then we have a braita that backs that up as well. Mavoy sheshaveh letocho v'naaseh midron l'shut rabim, or shaveh l'shut rabim v'naaseh midron letocho. Oto mavoy eno sarich lo lechi velo korah. So we have another statement that says if something is very inclined, it's considered like a wall. And this is the case where I have an alleyway, a joint courtyard, like a Rosanna court, right, or something like that. And then that opens up to the Reshut Rabim. So normally when you have a joint courtyard that's open to the main thoroughfare, the main highway, I have to put some kind of item that reminds people not to carry beyond that point. So you have to put, a beam, that's the origin of an eruv, or a pillar or something. So he says, if they both are straight, but they're not at the same level, and you have to go down or up between the two, then that slope by itself is considered like a beam that would be enough of a reminder. So you see that 2 levels make it 2 reshuyot. Rabbi Yochanan ben Gamaliel Omer, Tela mitlaket 10 mitoch 4, zarak venach al gabav hayav. And over here, this case, so it doesn't say how much it is, but the last case, Rabbi Yochanan says exactly the same ratio, the same proportion as Rav said. So it's Rabbi Yochanan statement that backs up Rav Yehuda Amar Rav's halacha. Okay, next Mishnah. Zarak letoch 4 amot v'nitgalgel chust 4 amot patur. I threw something just a little bit. I lobbed it, but all of a sudden, somehow it rolled, or the wind blew it, and it went for more than 4 amot. But my action was only enough to make it go 2. In that case, patur. I throw something with enough force that it should go 4 amot. But I don't know, it's very windy, or it's an incline, and then it rolls back and lands within 4 amot, hayav. Because, well, we'll see, right? The question obviously is, hold on, it didn't land. If I threw it, it's a boomerang, let's say, right? I threw it, it went out there, and then it came back to me, or it came close to me, it never landed out there. So then why should you say chayav in the second case? It had to have landed on something, somehow or another. It's not clear if it's rolling or it's the wind that pushed it. We're going to see more about wind, but maybe if it's the wind, it has to stop in the air for a second, under 10 tefachim, so that it could be considered as if it landed there. Only then it goes back in. Tanya nemeachi, and we have a braita that backs him up. Zadak husar ba'amot utchafuhu haruach v'hich nisato. I threw it 4 amot, and then suddenly a wind came and pushed it in. Even if the wind turns around and pushes it out again, since it didn't go out of 4 amot because of my force, right? My force pushed it out, but it came back in. From that point, it went back out because of the wind. It's not my problem, and therefore patur. But if I threw it out and it stayed there for a moment from the wind, and then it came back in, it will be hayav. Okay, you might be asking, according to physics, if it does change direction, at some point it has to go to velocity of 0. Yeah, but I was thinking maybe it's like going around, right? It's going this way and then coming back around, so its own velocity, its speed is always moving, although the velocity in one direction does go to zero and come back. So that in that case, it never that came to a rest because it is always moving in some direction. So it might be a case like that. אמר רבא, תוך שלושה לרבנן צריך הנחה על גבי משהו. So Rava said, although we did say lavud, something as less than 3 tefachim is considered part of the ground, but Rava is saying, according to Rabbanan, this is Rabbanan of Rabbi Akiva. Way back, we saw a case where someone is in his own on one porch over here, another porch over here, and there's a street in the middle. And if he throws it over, right? We said according to Rabbi Akiva, chayav. According to Rabbanan, according to Rabbanan patur because it never landed, right? And we don't say that the airspace is like it included. We discussed there if it's above 10 or below 10. Rava says even below 3, it has to land on something. If it's moving the whole time, it's not considered as if landing. That's what Rava says. Yememar was repeating this statement, and Ravina heard him. Amar leRavina lemaremar. Lav hainu matnitin. Amar Rabbi Yochanan vehu shanach al gabe mashehu. Oh, we know that's the Mishnah that we just learned. And regarding that Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan said, it has to land for a moment, has to land on something. Amar le mitgalgel kamar. No, that Mishnah was talking about if it's rolling. That's when I threw it in one direction and then it stopped somewhere and then rolled back. Mitgalgel ensofo lanuach. That's a different case. You can't bring a proof because everybody knows it's a temporary landing. So there it goes, and that's not the destination. In this case, I'm throwing it in one direction, and it is going to land on the other side of the Shut Harabim. And so therefore, since it is on its way to landing, in the meantime, when it goes below 3 tefachim, it's as if it landed, because it's all in the right direction. It's where I want it to go. So in that case, it's not comparable to this one. In that case, going one direction, I consider as if it's landing. And in Rabbi Yochanan's case, that's what Rabbi Yochanan's case says it has to actually land, because I wouldn't consider it as if it's landing unless it actually did, because it's kind of midway and turning direction. All right, next Mishnah. So now back to water. Hazorek bayam arba amot patur. Throwing into the sea. Why? Because the sea is considered karmelit. It's not a shut rabim. It's not a shut achid. Ima yarekak mayim u'shut rabim alechet bo hazorek letocho arba amot hayav. But here's the irony: if I was in the middle of the street and there was a puddle, a pool of water in the middle of the street. And people, it's part of the Shut Rabim. People drive on it. People walk through it. If someone throws in it, into it 4 amot, it passes 4 amot over the dry part, over the liquid part. Doesn't matter. Hayav. V'kama hu rekak mayim pachot ma'asara tefachim. How deep would it have to be? Less than 10 tefachim. If it was more than 10 tefachim deep, then it would be a board, a cistern, and that would be make it a shut hayachid. This is the exact same words repeated, right? Up here we had the same exact words, and here it's repeated, which is kind of strange that the Mishnah has the same word for word repeated with right there back to back. And the Gemara is going to ask why it is repeated like that. The fact that it says mehalechet bo, and here the same case mehalechet bo, that the street is going through where the water is. Why does it say it 2 times? Hakamash malan hiluch ayideh dechak shemeh hiluch tashmish ayideh dechak la shemeh tashmish. It teaches us that even though people walk there, but not as much as on dry land. It's kind of dehak, only if there's really a lot of people, or it's hard to get there. Otherwise, people will walk through it. But it's like it's a push for it to be usable. That's still considered usage when people are walking there. However, using it for other purposes, like if you're storing things over there and lots of people would come and use it for that case, but it's not convenient, then we don't call that we don't call that usage. So it wouldn't be usage for that purpose. But for walking through, it is still considered usage, and that's why he repeats it twice to teach you that Even though not so many, even though it's not less convenient, it's still some people walk there, still Reshut Rabim. Ela rekak rekak terezimne lamali. But what do you have to repeat the exact same case of rekak mayim, this pool of water? Like, teach a different case or something. Why repeat the same thing? So we're gonna have three different answers to this. Had bimot hachama, had bimot geshami. Master repeated twice because it wants to cover both summer and winter, both the rainy season and the non-rainy season. Nusrichi, I need to teach you both. In the summer, when it's very hot, people will generally walk through the puddle because they want to get cooled off in the puddle. And so, right, they'll walk through rather than walk around. But when it's cold outside, then they'd rather walk around and they're not going to walk through it. So you might think that it's not considered a Reshut Rabim in the winter. So we have to teach you that in the winter it's also the Reshut Rabim. And if you only said Bimota Geshamim, if you specify that, then I might think in the winter when everything is muddy and my clothes get all dirty anyway, I'm probably just going to walk through the puddle because my clothes are dirty anyway. But in the summer when everything's dry and my clothes are not dirty, I'm not going to want to walk through the puddle because I don't want to get my clothes dirty. So I might think in the summer it's not a Reshut Rabim. And that's why it says the kak mayim twice. Both a puddle in the summer and a puddle in the winter, both are considered part of the Reshut Rabim because people do walk through it sufficiently. Good, that's one answer. Abaya amar isterich, sakadatech hamina hanim lehecha delahave arba amot, aval hecha arba amot akufe makfile. I need it twice because I might think that it's only called the Reshut Rabim when it's 4 amot wide or long. But if it's not, then it's less than that. People will just jump over it. 4 amot is about 6 feet. If it's less than 6 feet, you could just hop over it. But it teaches that even less than 6 feet, people will walk through it, and that's considered walking, and it's considered Reshut Rabim. He says the opposite. I might think that's only when it's wide, but if it's short, then people will go around it. Right. Only when is arba, people will step over. Right. Oh, this one I got them mixed up. Abaye said, right. If it's less than 4 amot, then I will walk around it. Right. And so, no, I would not, even if they don't walk around, they also walk through it. Rav Ashi says, he will step over it. And he proves it because if you have a bridge, a walking bridge made out of slats, and let's say one of the slats is a little rickety and everybody steps over it, if I throw something onto that slat, it's still considered chayav. Because even though people are walking over it, jumping over it, and not stepping on it, it's still part of the path, and therefore still chayav. And so that's why the Mishnah has to repeat twice that the pool, no matter what size, in the winter and summer, is still considered part of Reshut Rabim. Although less people walk through it, people do walk through it or walk over it, and so that would be chayav as well. Okay, more water to come. Hazorek min hayam leyabasha, min hayabasha layam. From the beach to the ocean, or ocean to the beach, from the sea onto a boat, or from the boat onto the sea. All these cases are patur. Why? Because the sea is considered karmelit, and so even if it's, let's say, a street that's overlooking the ocean, like the Belt Parkway or something, that's going from Reshut Rabim to karmelit. The boat is considered a Reshut Yachid. So you're going from Reshut Yachid to Karmelit. So in either case, you're not going from Reshut Rabim to Reshut Yachid. So all these are patur. And you have two boats. If you have two boats next to each other, then the Reshut Yachid to the Reshut Yachid. That's like two houses that are adjacent to each other. Also would be patur. Sefinot kishurot zo bazo, metaltelin zo lazo. If they're actually tied, two boats are tied to each other, then you can lechat techila. You're allowed to carry from one to the other, assuming you make an aruv, same as two houses or two shared courtyards. Imenan kishurot afapishe mukafot If they are not tied, even though right now they're adjacent, you can't because they might float away from each other. And so they're not considered sufficiently connected. That's the Mishnah. Itmar, Sefina, Rav Huna Amar, Mosin Hemena Ziz, Kol Shehu, Umemale. Let's say you're on the boat and you want water from the ocean below, right? We said patur, but still patur aval asur. What if you want to do it the right way? So he says you take a pole, a fishing pole, and with a bucket, and you lower it down, and then you bring it back up, and then you bring it in. That's Rav Huna. Rav Chisda Rav bar Rav Huna Amre Ose Mekom Arba'a Umemale. You need a contraption. You need like to go over. You need something that's 4 by 4, a wooden box with an empty bottom, and you place that outside, over the edge of the deck, and then you take a bucket and you lower it within this 4 by 4 hollow box. Okay, you got that? Okay, so that's interesting. Let's see why. Rav Huna Amar Mosim en Aziz Kol Shehu Memale Kasabar Karmelit Mar'a Mashchinan Vavira Mekom Paturhu. Rav Huna says Karmelit is measured from the ground, from the sea level, like we saw before, and so therefore only the first 10 tefachim above the above the ground level of the ocean, of the sea, is called Karmelit. More above that, the rest of the water, and certainly anything above the water, is all makom patur. So really, you could just go down and scoop it up, and you don't even need this pole. We just require the pole as an extra siman drabanan. Ubedinhu disease namela libae. And we don't even need the pole. Pole is just as a kid because people in their imagination, it's hard for them to distinguish. Kind of looks like you're taking something from right there. So we make a little sign, a distinctive sign to say that this case is different. And so, don't do this in a shallow place or somewhere else. That's Rav Huna. Rav Chisda Rabba Rav Huna Amre Ose Mekom Arba'a Umemale Kasabre Karmelit Misefat Maya Mashchinan Maya Ar'a Semichata. They think that the water is filled in. The karmelit goes all the way up to the top of the water, and it's like it's all one thick ground all the way until the top of the water. And so, therefore, if you don't make this box, you are carrying from karmelit to the boat, which is asur midrabanan, but still asur midrabanan. And so, what you do instead is you make this box. By making this box that's 4 tefachim wide and 10 tefachim high, you're creating a reshut hayachid, and you're putting it right adjacent to the edge of the boat, right outside the boat, and so then you're pulling it up within a reshut hayachid. It kind of goes, all those walls go all the way down to the floor, and so you're pulling it up within the reshut hayachid, and you just bring it into the boat, so it's all reshut hayachid. So that's a nice, ingenious way to get around it. Amar Rav Nachman Rabba bar Abu. Rav Huna, Damar Mosi Hemen Aziz, Kol Shehu Memale, Zimnin Deleka Asara. Hold on, you have a problem. Well, sometimes the boat goes in very shallow water, and you don't even have 10 tefachim from the floor to the bottom of the boat, or to where you are standing. And then you will be carrying. So why don't you worry about that? We have a tradition that boats don't go in such shallow water, which is true. I mean, sifina means a big boat, and it would not be able to sail in such shallow water. Hold on, it has this. Roman boats had this like a battering ram in the front, and that was lower than the rest of the boat. And it was kind of a plow or to see if there was anything in the way, it would break it. So it has that, and that's lower. Amar Rav Safra Gashoshe Azle Kama. You don't have to worry even about that. The sailors in the front would have long poles, and they would constantly be checking the water to make sure that it was deep enough for the boat. And so it was always deep enough. They would not sail if it was not deep enough. That's cool. That's pretty interesting that they had these probes before radar. Okay. Amar le Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Rav, or sonar, I should say. בר אבין, לרב חיסדא, ולרבה בא רב הונא דאמרי עושה מקום ארבעה וממלא שופכין דידה hechi shadelehu. According to the second opinion above, that said you can't just bring up the water, you have to make this box and bring up the water that way. What about wastewater that you want to throw out of the boat? You're going to have the same issue that throwing from the Reshut HaYachid to the Karmelit is still asur midrabanan. So if you say use the same contraption, that 4x4 hollow box, and throw it out there, it's disgusting. You're going to put the human waste down there, and then you're going to want to bring up water that you're going to use and drink. You don't want, even though it's a big ocean, but especially if you're anchored, you don't want to draw it from the same place. You want something from the other side of the boat. So lehu adafna desfina. It means that here's a simple way. You throw it over the side of the boat, but you just put it on the side. And then on its own, it rolls down the side of the boat and goes down to the floor. So you're doing it indirectly. I'm not actually throwing it into the water. I'm just putting it on the boat, and then it slides down. Okay, but still by your power, it's indirect, but you're still doing it indirectly. You don't have to make this. The whole thing is Rabbanan anyway, so we don't make a gezerah. Only a gezerah if you put it directly, but if you're putting it on something and then it goes by itself, we don't have to worry about it. There's no gezerah. How do I know that? Braita says you can't place from the boat to to the water, or from the water to the boat. That means placing it directly, but if it goes by itself, it's okay. Let's do one more paragraph because this proves that point. The Biuda Omer, Amuka asara ve'en geboha asara betaltelin mitocha layam, avalo min hayam letocha. If the boat itself is big enough, has 10 deep, but not 10 high, above the surface of the water. In other words, it goes down into the water, but not above. Then you can mitaltel both in. You can mitaltel mitocha layam. From it, you could go out to the water, but you can't take from the water and bring it into the boat. And so we ask, Mai shana min hayam mitocha delo tekamatitli mekamet l'reshut hayachid. So you said you can't do it from that way, but you're going from Karmeli to the Reshut HaYachid. Mitocha layam nameh. If you're in the boat and carrying something outside the boat, it's the same thing. Kameteltem Reshut HaYachid lekarmelit. So what's the difference between out and in? Elalav ahuda. Oh, must be talking about you're throwing it on the side. So from out to in is a problem, but from in to out, I don't have to carry it out. I could just throw it onto the side of this little boat, and it will go down by itself. Ushma mina. And so we learn from this that the rabbis did not make a gezerah throwing out the boat. Okay, I imagine a lot of this was actually practical. They did a lot of sailing, and on long journeys. It will be on Shabbat as well, and so they had to create a whole system of how to keep Shabbat on the boat when it was really needed to put things out and bring things back in.
So why do they say gamrinan?
Gamrina, like we learned, like it's a tradition, even though it seems a basic thing. Well, because it does affect the halachic principle. I mean, I guess Gamrinan is we learned it, we know it.
So further up, you have a few times it says pshitale.
Right. But pshitale means halachically he knows that this is a principle. It is interesting to use the gamrinan it's not really a halacha, but a basic reality. But it is a reality that affects halacha, so maybe they learned it in that context, and so it is an applicable one.